Have you heard of the Mountaineer who glides over the snow? If you see him a-comin', he'll drag you far below by raging fire or a lake of ice. You never can escape. He'll catch you around and snatch you up with claws and mouth that gapes. Take heed, unwary child, lest you gaze upon your doom. The mountains belong to the Mountaineer, but they shall be your tomb.
I sat, reclined on the sofa, gazing absent-mindedly at the ceiling fan circling overhead. I realized that if I concentrated hard enough, I could see each individual blade as it spun in endless circular motion. My eyes were fixated on the fan, but my brain was somewhere else entirely. I closed my eyes for a moment, and suddenly I was back on the mountain. I could hear the frigid winds as they shrieked into the dead night, and I could feel them as they blasted my exposed face with what felt like particles of solid ice. All around me, the snow was falling just as I remembered it. I could see it slowly accumulating on the ground around my tent. More than anything, I felt all the encompassing dread I had felt that night. I suffered through the unmistakable feeling that something was watching me as I spun in frantic circles. I was crying out for help, for somebody, for anybody to come rescue me. Nobody came. At least, nobody came in time.
David!
I jolted, as though I was awoken from a feverish nightmare. The godforsaken mountains were gone. The shrieks of the howling wind was replaced by the rhythmic ticking of a clock. I turned my head to the right, half expecting to see the hideous creature that haunted me every waking thought. But I was relieved to see the concerned face of Dr. Stirling staring over at me.
David, are you alright?
He inquired, quickly scratching something into his notes with his sharpened number 2 pencil. I sat up from my reclined position on the sofa, rubbing the back of my head.
I'm alright, Dr. Stirling. I guess I was just daydreaming. You were thinking about it again, weren't you?
The room went silent. The ticking of the clock seemed to fade into oblivion. It was a rhetorical question. Dr. Stirling knew why I was here. It was the same reason I'd been coming to his office weekly since I was 16. What happened to me was almost 10 years ago, but something like that, it doesn't leave your brain. At least, not without a fight. I knew what Dr. Stirling wanted to hear, so I conceded.
Yeah, I was thinking about it again. I mean, it's hard not to, given the circumstances.
I nodded sympathetically. He nodded sympathetically.
David?
He spoke softly.
How long has it been now since your parents first brought you in? I was 16.
I responded.
It was a few days after that group of rock climbers found me out there. When I told my parents what had happened, they shipped me off to you. I mean, who wouldn't think I'm crazy after what I saw?
Dr. Stirling frowned, scribbling into his notepad.
Don't describe it like that, David. You didn't see any cryptic demon, or whatever you claimed it to be, on your first day. This Mountaineer character you created is an absolute of an old rhyme used to scare children, and your absolute mind coping with the experience stresses you faced. What happened was a natural tragedy. Could have been avoided by anybody. Listen, Doctor,
I said defensively.
I know what I saw. I saw that thing 10 years ago, and it hasn't left my mind ever since. Every day, every night, I'm forced to look at that thing in the eye one more time. I'm forced to suffer. Do you know why I'm suffering? Because I'm the one who lived.
Stirling frowned once more. This time he seemed genuinely concerned with what I had said, rather than simply being displeased that I kept up my insistence of what I saw.
What do you mean? Surely you recognize how lucky you were to— How lucky I was to be rescued! The others, Dr. Stirling, they don't have to live with what I seen. I lived, but what cause? Do I have to go on living like this forever? Because I would sooner cut out my own throat than go back to those mountains. I would do it just so I don't have to remember it every day.
Dr. Stirling wrote something else, then put his notepad and pencil aside. He clasped his hands together and rested them on his knee.
David, I believe I have a way to rid of you of these delusions once and for all. Each type of pill I prescribe for you has done nothing to quell the effects of your trauma. It's a risky uncovering, and I'm not sure you're going to like it. If you go back to those mountains, just for a night, you'll see for yourself that there's nothing up there.
I stared at him in stunned silence. Did he actually want me to go back to those mountains? And for what? Some voyage of self-discovery?
Doctor,
I said, trying desperately to stay calm.
I know you don't believe me. I know you don't. But you have to listen to me when I tell you that there's something in those mountains for me but death. There was death waiting for my friends, and it's still up there waiting for me. David, the weekend you and your friends went camping was one of the most severe snowstorms this area has ever seen. The deaths were tragic, but they were not caused by an otherwise creature of any kind. They froze to death, and as I said before, you were lucky to be rescued before you suffered the same fate. We know it's going to be like that, Doctor. We came prepared with tons of food, supplies, and all the extra snow gear we could carry. So tell me, Doctor, why did our supply vanish that night? We brought all the stuff so that we can have been safe through the storm. We had planned for it to be an adventure, but we still understood the risks, and we had prepared for them. There was nobody in that area but us. It was something took our gear. How do you explain that? Look.
Stirling said, trying desperately to change the subject.
I'm not saying you have to go back to that exact spot, or even spend the night. All I'm suggesting is that you take a day trip back to the mountains so that you can come to terms with what really happened. Study shows that victims of trauma find it helpful to return to the sites of the trauma after a long period of recovery. It's been 10 years, David. You need to face what happened, and you need to do it soon.
I sighed, weighing my options. It seemed like every bone in my body was crying out, begging me not to go back there. But my mind seemed to wrap itself around Stirling's words faster than the pit in my stomach could form. If I went back early in the morning and left soon after, I would be all right. More than anything, I wanted this nightmare to end, and if what Stirling said it was true, I would be able to end it on my own instead of having it to fade out of my mind naturally. I made up my mind. I would go to the mountains, confront whatever inner demon was torturing me for so long, and live the rest of my life as a healthy, sane, productive member of society. I hoped.